From an overnight prison cell held in contempt of court, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two men who are out of order, along with Corey, who's out of order. The whole podcast is out of order. Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Yeah, cool little And Justice for All reference there in one of our new intros. Corey, who is the big fan of And Justice for All?
That was written by Jason Kruns. Kruns?
No, Kroons.
Who knows? Rhymes with prunes and Justice for All.
Yes.
Who's clearly invested in Justice for All.
That's right. Yes.
That was written by Jason Kruns, who's clearly invested in Justice for All. And justice and injustice and just us. Just us? Oh, no, for all.
What? No, Mark, we should point out, Corey's never seen Injustice for All.
No.
And when he read that the first time, he had no idea what he was reading. He didn't get the reference at all, and you had to coach him through it. And
well,
you did a very good job. You did a very good job. Corey knows movies left and right, but for some reason that was one that just escaped him.
Corey tends to be more of a sci-fi guy, a geek, as it were, and an
Proudly
adorable, lovable geek.
Proudly so.
That is true.
Yes. So anyway, listen. We need your listener mails. We have some saved up that we're going to read on the next show or the one thereafter. But we need listener mails. We need Vox boxes. Send us some Vox boxes. No. To gods@digigods.com, gods@digigods.com. And, of course, everybody join the Facebook page. There are lots of lively discussions going on, and it's a good place to ask questions and get feedback from a lot of very knowledgeable people. I'm always amazed at our Facebook fan group because it's just like they know everything. It's very impressive. We have some...
But they can't know too much because then they can host this podcast.
Yeah, well,
where would that leave us?
Exactly where we are. That's where it would leave us. Anyway, Mark, some interesting stuff this week.
I think so.
Should we dive right into it, or should we talk about Bryan Singer first? We don't really want to talk about that, do we? No, we don't want to talk about that.
Those things are just
sordid.
They really are. And you know what? It's just words against words now.
I know. It is sordid. You know what I want to do first? I got a bunch of low budget horror stuff that has accumulated. I'm going to go through this super quickly.
I think you should.
Because I have not watched, I confess, I have not watched a single one of these all the way through. In point of fact, I have watched maybe 15 or 20 minutes of each one of these. Some of them I watched 10 minutes of, just to get a sense of whether or not it really is scary. You can usually do that. So I'm going to say... So I'm gonna blow right through these because it's all pretty cut and dry. This was an official selection at Shriekfest in 2013. I don't even know what that is. I'm sure if we talked to Luke Thompson, he'd tell us all about it. But anyway, this is this is the whole idea of chemical, like in a chemical plant where people die in a chemical plant. It's the usual deal, except we're getting into a toxic waste thing. This is Hazmat. Revenge has a new face. Fairly suspenseful. Nothing I haven't seen before. Much better is Cybergeddon. This is actually not bad for a low-budget film. This is from Arc Entertainment. Looked like pretty high production value, decent performances, and seem to have a pretty good suspenseful vibe going. Pretty awesome, and I think I want to watch the whole thing. This is from IFC Midnight. Is director Eric England's Contracted. This is actually really kind of cool. This is this seems to be almost like an arty horror film in many respects, and looks really cool. Has a really neat vibe to it, and the lead actress is really good, and I think this is definitely worth checking out, giving a second look to. From the Accelerator Macabre line is The Conspiracy, which didn't really do anything for me. That just seemed to be completely negligible. And then Holy Ghost People looked pretty fun. So Holy Ghost People is the one I would give much more of a thumbs up to. It's got that Appalachian vibe, and I always like Psycho Hillbillies. There's something about Psycho Hillbillies that I always find thoroughly enjoyable. Blu-ray called Dead Shadows from a director who I guess I should know more of, David Chalua. This is pretty gruesome. Great effects in the stuff that I watch. Great makeup effects, and pretty high production value. It's this is a whole sci-fi thing. There's like a comet on its way to the Earth, and it's a little bit like Night of the Comet, except much darker and more gruesome, and actually kind of seem to have a cool vibe. From the Screen Media Darkside line is Confine, starring 3 people I've never heard of before: Alfie Allen, Daisy Lowe, and Eliza Bennett. You gotta love it when they brag about people that no one has ever heard of. But anyway, this is about a woman who winds up basically being so horrified by an event in her life that she just can't leave her house, and then she's subject to a home invasion. Pretty good idea. Low budget, but the execution is actually really, really good. A thing called Death Do Us Part, in some really fancy packaging, is kind of generic. We've sort of seen this thing many, many, many times before. It's the wedding gone awry. There have been at least a dozen of those. Scream Park, starring the genre darling Doug Bradley from Hellraiser. And you know what? Not so great. I got to be honest. It's directed by Kerry Hill, who I guess is also something of a genre guy. This just feels like more kind of variation on Hills Have Eyes. Camp Dread stars Eric Roberts, who we had listener mail some weeks ago about why hasn't his career taken off, and why hasn't he done better with his career, because he's a good actor, and he is a good actor, and he's the best thing about this. It's not terrible, it's the usual deal, you've seen this a million times before, and I think it's a little similar to what we recently had in All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, but Eric Roberts is worth checking out. And then my favorite of all of them is just worth watching for the title alone, The Legend of the Psychotic Forest Ranger. You got to check it out. You seriously have to check it out. It looks like something from the late 1960s, and it means to, and it's really, really hilarious. It means to just be a great big giant goopy ball of cheese, right down to the completely erroneous color of blood. It is hilarious. It's a riot. It's a hoot. It's worth checking out.
Wait, I'm looking at the interwebs.
Yes.
And it's something that will mean nothing to anybody, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go ahead.
They're closing down for remodeling the Laemmle Theater on 2nd Street.
Well, again, what are they going to do to it now?
They're going to remodel it. They're going to put in they're going to remodel it.
Are they going to make
it?
May. Are they going to make
reopen in December? There'll be a restaurant there called Dolce Vita.
It'll have how many screens when it reopens?
It does not say.
Okay, it needs to have 2 screens again, like it did originally, because they butchered that second screen.
It's kind of like what the Avco did.
I know. It's what they've all done.
Now the Avco's reopening. I mean, that thing's almost done.
I know, but I'm scared to see what it is, because it's going to have stadium seating and a whole bunch of... Look,
No, it's like they have in Pasadena, where you paid $30 for a ticket.
Yeah,
and you get,
whatever.
Food
I'm sick of that. I want giant movie palace auditoriums again. I want to sit in a theater, that has like a normal rake, not auditorium seating. I want to sit in a normal theater that has a normal rake and like Rococo design on the sides and some really gaudy decoration. And I want to sit in that theater with, like 1,000 other people. I want to sit in a theater with 1,000 people, not 200 people, not 150 people, not 50 people, with 1,000 people. Sitting in a theater with 1,000 people watching Ghostbusters, all laughing at the same time, is an awesome experience, and it's something that people just don't have anymore. It's not the same sitting with like 200 people.
I disagree. My experience is sitting in a theater with a bunch of people texting and tweeting during the movie.
Sucks.
That to me is pure movie-going bliss.
Star Trek Enterprise Season 4 on Blu-ray? Pretty awesome.
Lasted 4 seasons.
Huh?
This thing lasted at least 4 seasons.
Yep.
How did it do that? It was never a blip. Nobody talked about it. It was just it just became like the one Star Trek series too many.
Yeah, well, you know what's awesome about this is that they actually you remember the uniform that Kirk would occasionally wear, that's not the usual tan uniform, but it was like that weird little sort of green the green thing that was a little bit too like sexy.
Right.
Like this little wrap over, it had a little wrap over action, and it was showing a little bit too much skin. It was a little too tight. It was a little too like like it almost needed a cod piece to be a full ensemble. You remember that deal?
Yeah.
Well, they have Scott Bakula wear one of those in this season.
Shatner used to say that you could always tell. Yeah,
It's brilliant.
Shatner used to say you could always tell
Gosh.
at what point in the season an episode was shot, because as the production season would keep going, he'd get fatter and fatter.
Because he'd just munch on the...
Yeah. So in episodes where he looks really thin, you can tell he shot that early in the season.
It's brilliant. And then Dynasty, the 8th season, is out in a 2-volume set.
Dynasty.
By the 8th season, this show's just completely off the rails. I loved the show when it was on, but honestly, by the 8th season, it was just too much. Needed to go off the air. All right, Mark. Let's get into some classic movies or new movies. What do you want to jump into?
Classic movies.
Classic movies. All right. I'll let you talk about. I'll let you here talk about The Happy One.
Oh my God. One of the great films.
It's a great film, but
there's no doubt about it. Is Sophie's Choice from 1982. This is directed by Alan Pakula. This contains one of Meryl Streep's greatest performances.
She won an Oscar for it.
Won an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
She's absolutely devastating. She plays an immigrant from Poland who lives in a boarding house in New York City with her lover and a young writer. And this thing is just devastating. And you spend the whole movie at least look. In 1982, I was like just a young lad, very young lad.
Yep.
And all I cared about is, what's the choice she has to make? What is Sophie's choice? Is she choosing between Kevin Kline and Peter McNichol? Oh, no. Her choice, Sophie's choice, devastating.
It is.
It destroys her entire life.
It's awesome.
And only one thing can bring her peace.
Big freaking downer of a movie.
Really
but it's a great movie.
It's devastating. It's great.
It's tremendous. It's a fantastic film. It's a great film.
And Shout Factory, God love them. They actually assembled Meryl Streep, Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline to participate in a roundtable conversation about the movie.
Yes, indeed.
Can't beat it. And there's an audio commentary with Alan Pakula. Now, of course, Alan Pakula died years ago. But
the worst way any director has ever died. I still have...
anybody has ever died.
It's just horrible.
He got in this freak car accident on the Long Island Expressway. It was a sign fell on his head or something.
No, it was like a girder went flying out the back of a truck and impaled his head or something. It was just horrible. I remember reading the details of it, and I just thought, that is just the worst way to go ever. Olive Films continues to do amazing work licensing stuff. We have Volume 3 of The Essential Betty Boop, which if you have 1 and 2, you got to get this. It's just, I never realized there were so many Betty Boop shorts, and they're all really, really adorable and cute and wonderful and just fantastic. This has an additional 12 shorts. It is beautiful on Blu-ray, really fantastic, all mastered from 4K scans of the original negatives. It is just gorgeous stuff. Animation fans just will not be able to get enough. And it includes some of the best. Minnie the Moocher, which is one of the most famous. The New Deal Show, Ha Ha Ha, Stop That Noise. It's all really, really good stuff. And then also from Olive is Men in War, starring Robert Ryan and Vic Morrow, along with Aldo Ray, directed by Anthony Mann, who was mainly Anthony Mann's claim to fame is that he made a lot of great noirs, and then he was the first director of Spartacus who got fired and replaced by some young punk named Stanley Kubrick.
That's right.
That was the deal, Anthony Mann. But he made some good war stuff, too, and this is one of them. Really, really gritty, unflinching stuff from 1957. And this is a Korean War film, and in 1957 that was very, very fresh in everybody's memory. There are not a lot of Korean War films, so they are a small bunch. And if you take MASH out of the equation, it's even smaller. MASH is one everybody knows about, but it's a comedy. And Vic Morrow, of course, everybody knows him from the television World War II thing.
Star Wars?
No, which I'm forgetting the name
Combat?
of. Combat, thank you. Gee, that's a hard title to remember. That's how late I'm going to have an all-nighter tonight, you know that? I'm staying up all night.
You're always having an all-nighter. Just go to sleep.
I can't have a baby.
It's the baby's night. You're always up at 3 a.m. doing some FileMaker Pro thing.
Yeah, probably.
That is totally unnecessary.
That's kind of true, actually. I like FileMaker Pro. Anyway, no, this is a really, really good, gritty film, and very realistic in its depiction of a lot of aspects of the Korean War. Sleep, My Love is a Douglas Sirk film starring Claudette Colbert, Robert Cummings, and Don Amici. And it is, I an unusual Douglas Sirk film. It's one of his, it's not as melodramatic as he, normally you would identify him as the quintessential melodrama director, but this is much more of a thriller, and quite a good one. Really cool photography, very nicely put together. From 1948, Joseph Valentine, who did a couple of Hitchcock films, Saboteur and Shadow of a Doubt, cinematographer, and does even better work here, believe it or not. Really a very cool film. Almost a noir. I wouldn't quite consider it noir. And then Joseph Losey, the amazing American expat who went to England to make most of his movies. From 1953, Stranger on the Prowl, starring an aging Paul Muni in an amazing performance. Really, really amazing. Very unusual film. Definitely worth checking out. I don't know if it's worth owning, but you definitely have to at least watch it. Now, the problem is, these Olive titles go out of print pretty quickly. So if you want to see Paul Muni play a vagrant who accidentally kills somebody, and then, with all of everything that kind of transpires thereafter, boy, you may want to buy this. So that's definitely worth checking out. And then an awesome snapshot of the 1960s in Up the Junction, which is one of those really cool. It's almost got a Lester feel to it in some respects. Lester really captured the 60s almost better than any other director. And this has kind of that same vibe. Beautiful, super widescreen photography from 1968. Based on a book by Nell Dunn, which I have otherwise never heard of. But this is really a pretty classic British picture in almost all respects, produced by two of the amazing, the guy who directed it, Peter Collinson, not terribly well known, but the producers, Anthony Havelock Allen and John Brabourne, two of the great British producers of all time. And really just a lovely, lovely movie, lovely romance. So Up the Junction, starring Susie Kendall and Dennis Waterman. Definitely worth checking out as well. All right. Let's see. Why don't we... Mark, give us...
Oh, no. Usually we on the show we recommend movies for people to buy or rent. This one's really more of a warning than it is a actual recommendation.
Yeah.
This is Rainbow Films. They have taken 4 Henry Jaglom films, put them in a box, and said, "Look, here's 4 Henry Jaglom films in a box." This is called Henry Jaglom Collection Volume 3, The Women's Quartet. 4 films about women's lives and their complex relationships with eating, one of the films, Baby Fever, Going Shopping, and Irene in Time.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with Henry Jaglom is that, although I really, really just dislike him, sometimes in one of his films, there'll be just a moment of actual emotional authenticity and truth. Mm-hmm. You see, Jaglom thinks that he's nothing but authentic.
I know.
But actually just a big annoying poser who sometimes will hit upon something, but mostly doesn't.
I interviewed Jaglom once at his Rainbow headquarters over there on Sunset, which is directly across the street from the only billboard that ever advertises his movies, and it usually advertises them for at least 18 months after they're out of theaters. And boy, that was the weirdest interview. He's exactly the guy that you imagine he is. He really is. I sat there and I talked to him. This was 20 years ago, but I sat there and I talked to him for an hour, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, you really are that guy. Here you are right in front of me, and you're that guy. You're into yourself, and you're temperamental, but you're yet kind of a softie, and you're that guy.
He really
and
has.
And at the time I was interviewing him about Baby Fever. And I didn't have the heart to say, dude, I just think that is the most insufferable thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But, because he made it, because he was getting older and he didn't think he'd ever be able to have children. And he wound up having his daughter, who I guess is an adult now, and is probably going to be insulted when she hears that I'm dissing the movie that he made, out of love for having her. But my goodness.
I'm thinking that she does not listen to this podcast. I'm just going to take a stab at that. Anyway, all 4 of these films are low budget and very talky and very full of themselves and think they're insightful, but actually they're not. So there you go.
A couple of great high-def restorations, not on Blu-ray, by the way. They are restored on high-def and released on DVD, but they look really, really good. These are from Film Chest, who doesn't release a lot of stuff. Film Chest is very, very judicious in what they release, but they get some great titles. They really do. The Bigamist, starring Joan Fontaine and Ida Lupino, the late Joan Fontaine, one of my all-time favorite actresses. Just a wonderful movie. The title part, of course, of The Bigamist is played by Edmund O'Brien, and it's exactly what it is all about. It's great performances all around, a little bit trashy, but what's noteworthy about this is that it was directed in 1953 by Ida Lupino. And, Ida Lupino really kind of bucked a lot of trends in her day, and one of them being an actress and a director at a time when women were not directing at all. And she does a really, really good job. It's a very unusual film. It's very quick, 79 minutes, from 1953, The Bigamist. Really interesting movie. And then the other one is Hollow Triumph, starring Paul Henreid and Joan Bennett. And this is even trashier, verges on being a B movie. But it's an otherwise interesting premise. It's a better premise than it is a movie. It's kind of a trashy noir, but it actually works. And in a dual role, Paul Henreid is pretty great and very, very convincing. Joan Bennett, not necessarily my favorite, but if you've ever heard of The Man Who Murdered Himself, it's the same film. That's from 1948, 83 minutes long.
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Now we're
into new movies now. Sorry,
we are.
I missed my cue.
It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. Mark, let's talk about Escape from Tomorrow. I hate this movie.
I wanted to like it, but it's just
movie.
really not that. The story behind it is better than the film itself.
Yeah, it is. This was, well, look, the artwork is better than the film itself.
Exactly.
I mean, this is, for those who don't know, this movie it's only available on Blu-ray at Best Buy right now. It's a Best Buy exclusive from now through the end of July. So you're not going to get this anywhere else. And I'm not sure you even want to get it at all. This thing was like a festival darling for 18 seconds because the guy who made it, he shot the entire film covertly with hidden cameras at Disneyland and Disney World. He smuggled cameras in. He had his cast reading their scripts off of their iPhones, and he shot this thing, on rides and all over the place, and then edited it all together. And it's basically about a guy whose life and mind are disintegrating. He loses his job at the beginning of the movie. He's out at Disney World with his family, and he has to sort of feign, like everything's okay while he goes around the park with his kids. And, of course, he starts to lose his grip on reality, and everything gets very surreal and freaky. And then it gets like, just straight up bizarre with the woman that he has the affair with. And it's completely psychotic. It's not a well-made film. It's really an awkward movie. It's terribly acted. I mean, the actors are absolutely awful. There are a few haunting moments. There are some interesting special effects that make it, a little bit fantastical. But bottom line, it's just a gimmick that turns into not a very good movie. It's an interesting gimmick. It's interesting that he pulled it off. And some of the behind-the-scenes stuff here, or what there is of it, the making-of featurette, the commentaries, some interesting stories. But, man, it's still not a good movie. It's just not a good movie.
You know what? It's funny because I know that these guys were expecting to get a whole lot of free publicity when Disney freaked out, filed lawsuits, screamed and yelled, went crazy. You know what Disney did?
Nothing.
They ignored it.
Yeah.
The best thing they could do.
Yeah, it's true.
They didn't engage with the guy.
No.
They said, you know what? This is just some low-budget piece of crap. It's going to come and go. They
Yeah.
totally ignored it. And all that free publicity that they were begging for, they saw it coming.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Never happened. Which is fascinating and very smart on Disney's part, because Disney's only going to sue if they perceive that something will be damaging. And they looked at this and they're like, this movie's going nowhere. This isn't going to do anything to the Disney brand. This will just come and go.
Yep.
Come and go.
Very true. Speaking of come and go, Black Nativity, Wade, this is based on the Langston Hughes classic stage play, and this is it's kind of the it's a modern take on the Nativity story featuring an African-American cast. Forrest Whitaker, Angela Bassett, Tyrese Gibson, Mary J. Blige, Jennifer Hudson.
Is James Coco in this?
What?
I don't know. You always bring up James Coco.
Nobody knows who James
don't know.
Coco is. I just love the fact that I know who he is and maybe 10 other people in the world.
I know.
And you do.
I do.
This thing is it was directed by Casey Lemons, who had a moment there as a director, and she never really took off.
I like Casey Lemons a lot as a director. I think, unfortunately, there's a piece that I read this week, which is really true, where it said normally, who do you want to direct your action film? Like the person who directed Deep Impact, or the person who directed Yumi and Dupree? Which of those people are you going to hire to direct your Captain America movie? And yet, it's the Yumi and Dupree people. And the argument being, if Mimi Leder had directed Yumi and Dupree, she wouldn't have gotten that call. That women are simply on the bottom of the rung. They don't get the same consideration, even if they're action experts, that men do. And it's right. And I think it's even harder if you're a black woman. And I think Casey Lemons is in one of those horrible, horrible places. There are a number of black female directors who are very, very good, really talented. Julie Dash is another one who made an amazing film, Daughters of the Dust, years ago. And they face the most enormous uphill battle because they're considered niche. They only tell black women's stories. That's the slur on them. And it's really unfortunate. I think Casey Lemons deserves better material than this. I really do. I think she's a very talented director, and really somebody should just hand her a pile of money and say, make your dream film, and just nail it, because she has a very authentic voice, and she's really good with actors. And I don't think this is her best work. I think this is something that she was just able to get done. That's true, because really this thing it's pretty cliched and kind of shop-worn, very familiar. I mean, it's modest, and there's some good moments in it, but I think ultimately it doesn't really do much for me. Now we have next Nut Job. This is a Universal CG film. There's, of course, a sequel in the works. I think this movie was just terrible. Like the main character in the movie, I just hit the mic. Mm-hmm. The main character in the movie is like this squirrel, and I just wanted to run him over with my truck. Yep. In fact, I don't own a truck. I wanted to buy a truck just to run him over with it. And so I didn't like the main character, and I didn't think it was that funny, not that clever. Has a good voice cast. You feel sorry for these voice casts because they record their parts, sometimes a couple of years before the movie comes out. So all they're recording is their lines of dialogue. They have no idea what the animation is going to be like. They have no idea if it's going to come together as a film. And they come, they figure, here's Liam Neeson, here's the horrible Katherine Heigl, here's Jeff Dunham, here's Will Arnett, here's Brendan Fraser. They figure, hey, it's going to be the new Ice Age. It's going to be fantastic. Turns out it's Nut Job. Terrible. Kids might like it, but ultimately it's just pretty terrible. So much of the Nut Job. Well, Copperhead was out for 16 seconds last year, and I actually think this is kind of worth seeing. Ron Maxwell directed this. Ron Maxwell is such an interesting director. I don't think he's a great director, but he's one of those guys who just he just puts his head down and gets somehow, if it takes 15, 10, 20 years to get a movie made, he does it. And he doesn't make easy movies. He made Gettysburg, which is 4 hours, and just this really ambitious and not that good, actually. I mean, I went and saw Gettysburg in the theater, and it was kind of a slog. But I remember thinking, boy, dude, you deserve an A just for getting this thing made. With this all-star cast and the staging and the whole thing. It's just A for effort all the way. And then he made the equally daring Gods and Generals, another Civil War movie. And this is also the Civil War era that he is so obsessed with. It's called Copperhead. It's on Blu-ray from Warner, who did not distribute it theatrically. They just picked it up for Blu-ray release. But it's not on the battlefield, though. It's not a battlefield movie. It's in upstate New York during the Civil War, and it is an interesting look at the conflict in a community centering around one guy in particular. It is it's a little raw and probably needed a little more development if this had gone through a proper kind of studio development or independent film development process where you have a few more cooks in the kitchen at least trying to hone the material. It probably would have been a little bit less rough around the edges, but it's a very sincere film, and it's quite nicely made despite a limited budget. So if you're a Ron Maxwell fan, Civil War fan, check out Copperhead. Wade, I have two more for you. We have an interesting little comedy that you might want to check out called Dayton Switch. It's pretty
pretty modest in scope and ambition, but it's kind of interesting. It's about these two high school seniors. They've been friends since they were like 8 years old. They're both still virgins, and they decide to make a deal, make a pact to get laid before the senior prom. However, turns out one of them has a secret. What's the secret, Wade?
He's a woman.
He's gay.
Oh, okay.
And you can tell by the poster art, the one sheet, which one is gay.
Uh-huh.
Because the word switch is in yellow, and the only person in the cast on the poster who is wearing a yellow shirt is that guy.
Okay.
Which means he is the one who is switching.
I got it.
Gay.
I understand. I took the switch to be something completely different. I thought it'd be like a sex change thing.
I know.
Yeah.
You're very sick.
All right.
Anyway, look, this thing is pretty modest. It doesn't work all the way, but it's pretty sincere and it's pretty genuine, and it has kind of a big heart. And look, if some of it doesn't work, at least they're trying. I didn't love this film, but I liked it more than I thought I would. It was more genuine in its emotions than I thought it would be, despite some of the forced humor. But date and switch. If you're into this kind of stuff, then I'd give it a whirl. You never know. On the other end of the spectrum is the Boys of Abu Ghraib. Now, the Boys of Abu Ghraib, it's about a soldier, and he goes to Abu Ghraib, where he's got a guard. All these big time, detainees. And, it's ripped from the headlines where he's kind of pressured by his bosses to use, harsh techniques on innocent detainees. And so it's kind of a rip from the headline thing. But this kind of stuff, you've really got to go deep. It's got to be like a director a director and a writer who can really just not be sensationalistic about it and not be too jingoistic or not too black and white about it, and really pull out the emotions and really pull out the op-ed opportunities in this story. This really isn't it. Very half-hearted, only scratches the surface. I like the idea of it because it can definitely use a dramatic treatment of Abu Ghraib, but this really is just not it. Not very insightful, script-wise. But you know what? If you're into the story, you may want to give it a whirl. It's just not very good. It's called The Boys of Abu Ghraib.
All right, got a few interesting stories here. Locker 13 is a kind of an omnibus slash, anthology film, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. It's a little bit like Four Rooms, right? 4 rooms, for all these different stories.
Tarantino.
Except this is all sort of tied together by one locker in this theme park where the janitor opens the locker and you suddenly, you've got the supervisor guy who starts telling him different stories, and you go into all these, these different little stories that detail a series of fork in the road life choice dilemmas. Good cast: Ricky Schroeder, Tatiana Ali, John Polito. It's a nice little indie film from Arc Entertainment. Probably should have gotten a theatrical release. I'm not quite sure why it didn't, but there it is. Michael Winterbottom's Every Day. This really should have gotten a proper theatrical release. Winterbottom's films just aren't like on anyone's radar anymore. It's so sad.
I loved him. His first half dozen movies, 24-Hour Party People, Code 46. I thought he was great.
But I guess his commercial cachet was so limited outside the UK that he's just there. People just don't pay attention to him anymore. Anyway,
he was also very prolific, and after a while,
he's still prolific. I mean, he's just cranking them out. And but this one, it took him 5 years to make, and he made other films while he's putting this together. But he wanted it to have the real feel of a long-term family drama, and it feels like it. Shirley Henderson is amazing. I mean, I love Shirley Henderson anyway. She just has such a great kind of blue-collar authenticity to her. But it's a difficult film to watch. It's very gritty, and it's meaningful and poetic all at the same time, and it's very, very. It's very touching. So that's definitely worth checking out if you missed it. Not showing up in theaters. And Jeffrey Rush and Donald Sutherland show up in The Best Offer, which also did not get a theatrical release, astonishingly. Normally, I would think Jeffrey Rush, Donald Sutherland, in a film by the director of Cinema Paradiso, Giuseppe Tornatore. Sure, why not? No. It's just very strange. Not Tornatore's best film, but Tornatore makes really tight movies. And this has got a really he makes thrillers actually more often than he makes things that are melodramatic like Cinema Paradiso, and this is thrillery and really quite interesting. A very, very tight script, a very interesting trajectory. Totally impossible to get in front of this movie. And it's got some good stuff going on. Jim Sturgis also shows up in this. And I think if you just want to watch great acting, Donald Sutherland and Jeffrey Rush especially, he just kills it in this. It's a good, tight, taut little movie. And then the last one I'm going to make mention of here is Wrong Cops by Quentin Dupieux, who is a director I absolutely despise. Oddly enough, Wrong Cops comes on the heel of Wrong, which comes on the heels of Rubber, which I just think Dupieux is the most overrated loon in the world. Marilyn Manson is actually in this and looks totally miscast, looks wrong. You just go, I mean, now I understand why he wears makeup, because when he takes the makeup off, you're like, dude, you need makeup. You don't look right. There's something wrong. But anyway, he's just a horrible director. All he does is just weird stuff, and this is just a lot of absurdism and weird, and it's just pointless. It's just silly, and it's a little bit offensive too. And I'm not normally somebody that says that, so he really needs to just go away. Fortunately, this did not actually get a theatrical release. Thank goodness.
Wade.
Yes.
How are you?
I remember when that film was got a little bit of buzz at Sundance, and it was like, when did James Franco find time to do that, and why would he do it?
James Franco, this guy is there is nothing he won't do.
I know.
You know what? I mean, in a sense, I kind of admire it.
Yeah.
Where he's got an itch to do a soap opera, he's going to do a soap opera.
I know.
He's got an itch to recreate the 40 minutes that were cut out of William Friedkin's, Cruising. He's going to do that too, and that's exactly what Interior Leather Bar is. Now, for those who don't know, in 1980 it was. 1980, William Friedkin did an Al Pacino film about a cop who goes undercover in the gay community called Cruising, and the movie was about to get an X unless Friedkin cut out about 40 minutes worth of very explicit gay-themed sexual material, which of course he did, and the movie was released without the X. But James Franco and his buddy Travis Matthews have decided to kind of recreate the 40 minutes of material that was cut out of the movie. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. It's not just a recreation of 40 minutes of gay sex. He uses it as a launching pad. I'm not saying he achieves it, but I'm saying this is what he does. He uses it as a launching pad to explore homosexuality in film and in American culture. Mm-hmm. That might be overselling the actual impact of the film. But as an experiment, I have to say Interior Leather Bar is kind of interesting.
Here's what I have to say about James Franco.
Yes.
I turned the Oscars on a couple of years ago. There he is. He's in the Oscars. He's hosting it. What, go away.
As if he doesn't care.
You infiltrate everything. I go to see that Seth Rogen movie, The End of the World thing. There he is. He's playing himself in this movie. It's his house.
The movie's funny.
He's suddenly, there he is. There he is again. That guy shoots up a whole thing at LAX, shoots up a whole, the whole, it kills a TSA guy at LAX. James Franco's there. He's tweeting pictures. He's tweeting about the whole thing while it's happening. It's like, who are you? What do you do? Here, I'm watching the Veronica Mars movie. It's a TV show, Veronica Mars, whatever. It's like Nancy Drew. I'm watching it. There's James Franco playing himself. It's like, dude, stop it. Stop being everywhere and in everything and being yourself everywhere at all times. I'm tired of it. Good grief!
And
go away for a moment.
And I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and he's starring on Broadway in Of Mice and Men.
I know.
And here's the funny part: is that he's been getting ripped. He's been getting ripped by the critics, and he actually had, in response to Ben Brantley's negative review in the New York Times, Franco hit Instagram and called Ben Brantley a little bitch.
Oh, did he now?
Yes, he did.
Well,
which he then pulled down once he realized that, in a fit of rage, maybe it's not the best time to start tweeting and Instagramming things.
Yeah. Remember when celebrities actually had publicists who served to sort of filter everything ahead of time?
Well, look, they can't have that because then you wouldn't have Entertainment Tonight, Extra, The Insider, E.
The last one.
The Internet.
Seth Rogen and Nancy Grace. Did you follow this whole thing?
A little bit.
Oh, good grief. So Nancy Grace, look, her whole deal is that she's angry and indignant about something all the time, right? That's her whole shtick. So every night, she's got something that she's just furious about, and she's going to look in the camera, and she's going to wag her finger, and she's going to say with that, that Southern school marm twang of hers, stop doing this, stop doing that, this is bad, and this is my new crusade. That's her thing, okay? It's her shtick. It is what it is. So she had some deal, some marijuana screed going on. It is, after all, an illegal drug. So, raging against an illegal drug should not be really surprising to anybody. Seth Rogen, being the ever-loving, proud pothead that he is, took huge offense to it, and he tweeted out, you're an effing whatever. It's like, dude, stop. You're a celebrity. You don't need to defend marijuana. Marijuana doesn't need you.
Well, marijuana means a lot to him.
Clearly. My gosh, you just hosted Saturday Night Live. You have a movie coming out. You don't need to go out. It's like, it's almost like somebody defamed his best friend. It's like, stop, let it go. It's Nancy Grace. It's what she does.
Yeah, but he also knows.
My goodness.
He also knows.
It's already illegal. It's like...
That's not the issue. The issue is he knows that if he engages in a Twitter war with Nancy Grace, all the articles are going to say, and Rogen, whose new film Neighbors comes out next week, that's what they're going to say. That'll be in every article.
I guess. Whatever. All right, here's what we got next. I'm going to blow through a few kid things right now.
Thank God. I'm going to take a nap.
You take a nap. But first, what I'm going to do for you, Mark, because, see, we already talked about Peppa Pig, My Birthday Party, which I have now watched. I kid you not. The Peppa Pig, My Birthday Party, the first Peppa Pig DVD, I have watched beginning to end at least 20 times. Because it's the only thing that keeps my daughter absolutely occupied for like an hour and a half of playtime. She's glued to Peppa Pig.
But that animation is horrible.
It's great. It's so much fun. But here's the thing. This is a new release of the same DVD, but on the sound series, and it has little buttons on the cover that play Peppa Pig sounds. So listen. So here's some Peppa Pig sounds, just so you hear. Here, listen. Isn't that great? Here's another one.
I'm Peppa Pig. I'm Peppa Pig.
That's great.
Sure is Peppa Pig.
No, she.
Oh, she's Peppa Pig.
She, it's a girl.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here's another one. You're going to love this one.
Yippee!
It's a little giggle.
So
it's a Peppa giggle. And this is my favorite. We sing that song. We whistle that tune all day long.
Kids scarred for life.
I love this.
That's great.
The problem is you can't change the battery. When these things wear out, they wear out.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's a crying shame is what it is. So anyway, it's Peppa Pig. It's the best thing in the world. Love it.
Is it
all right.
Pepper Pig like Angie Dickinson and Policewoman?
P-E-P-P-A.
Not Pepper Pig.
Not Pepper Pig. No, Peppa Pig and her little brother George.
George Pig.
George Pig, yes. And Mommy Pig and Daddy Pig.
Oh.
Yeah. And her best friend, Susie Sheep. Susie Sheep.
Now, at what point does a farmer come and blow the whole family away and then eat the bacon? I want to go. Peppa Pig winds up in an IHOP omelet.
You know the best name on the thing is the woman who teaches, the teacher at the school and teacher of ballet and everything, is Madame Gazelle. How cute is that, right?
Oh, because she's a gazelle and he's a pig, and that's great.
Okay. Season 1, Volume 2 of Angry Birds Toons. They keep doing these damn things.
I love Angry Birds.
I do too, but I just don't get the mini episodes. I really don't understand why they are cartoons now.
There's going to be Angry Birds movie.
I know. It's stretching it too far. It's like I'm watching this and I just think, it makes me want to play the game. It doesn't make me want to watch this cartoon to the end. It's not very interesting. I guess there's a market for it. Whatever, it's on Blu-ray, and it looks fine. I mean, they got some good animators, but I just don't get it. This is great, and I have not yet inflicted this on my daughter. She's not yet old enough. This is for you have to be at least 2, according to these people. But Whistle Fritz has the thing of French for kids, and I got the DVD and the CD here. The DVD is Dedans et Dehors, Inside and Out. And there's also the Let's Dance French learning songs. And I am starting to speak a little bit of French to my daughter. This looks like an awful lot of fun, and I wish I had had this when I was a kid. It would have helped me learn French much earlier and probably be much more proficient at it. But this is really, really good stuff. So the Whistle Fritz French for Kids series, the CDs and the DVDs, really, really well done. I'm very, very impressed by the whole process that they've gone through. Lala Oopsie Ponies, The Big Show. I would never have given this a second thought, but I have a feeling that I'm going to have to let my daughter see this. I find them kind of terrifying. The whole Lala Oopsie concept. It's a little bit like Raggedy Ann and Andy, but with a Frankenstein vibe. But I have a feeling my daughter will probably enjoy it. PBS Kids always does really, really good stuff. Vowel Power, 5 episodes, is really, really good for teaching kids how to spell and speak and put words together. Really, really good, actually. So this one gets an A from me as well. One that my daughter will probably never see because my wife won't allow it, but I like it, is Shuriken School, The Ninja's Secret. This has never been on DVD before, and I've never even heard of this before. This is from Cinedigm and Flatiron Films, and it's animated ninja stuff. It's in the anime vibe. But the reason I'm so fond of this is because it's about a shuriken school, for crying out loud. You know what a shuriken is, right, Mark?
Oh, yeah, it's a school where you learn all about shurikens.
Do you know what a shuriken is? You have no idea.
I have no idea.
It's a throwing star.
Oh, okay, got that.
Yeah, shuriken is a throwing star.
Why don't they just call it a throwing star?
Huh?
Why don't they just call it a throwing star?
Because
Why
throwing star is
fancy, unpronounceable name.
Because throwing star is English and shuriken is Japanese.
That's great.
Okay. No, yeah, because when I was a kid, when I was in my martial arts phase growing up, when I was like 8, 9 or whatever, and I made my first pair of nunchakus by cutting off the ends of broomsticks, which didn't make my mother very happy. But I sawed off the ends of broomsticks and then put holes in them and put little eye screws in there and then put chains and made a pair of nunchucks. Right. I also went and got a pair of tin clippers and a sheet of tin, and I did a little stenciled out a little throwing star, and I made throwing stars out of tin, and then there was like a wood shed in the back, and I'd throw them and I became really good at it. Like I could, from about 20 feet, I could nail the bullseye every time with throwing stars. I was lethal. I could have been a ninja. Do you hear me? Could have been a ninja. Yeah. Anyway, and then the last one from Nickelodeon is SpongeBob, You're Fired. And you got 14 episodes here, one of which, of course, is SpongeBob, You're Fired. And it's the usual compilation of episodes, and I just still don't really get SpongeBob. I kind of appreciate the animation a little bit more now. And, of course, the famous SpongeBob, You're Fired episode is double length and whatever. But I don't know. Here's my question. Krusty Krab, is he any relation to Krusty the Clown?
You're asking about
You don't
I'm
care.
not a crusty genealogist.
You don't care.
I don't.
You really don't. You're a very unpleasant man sometimes.
All my animated shows are running out of steam. Family Guy running out of steam. Simpsons running out of steam.
Yeah, I know.
What's left? Bob's Burger. I'm not gonna watch Bob's Burger.
Oh, lame. Bob's Burger's lame. Let's do some foreign language stuff. Super quick. Jan Svankmeyer's Alice from First Run Features is out on Blu-ray. And Jan Svankmajer, of course, is the legendary Czech animator who made a combination stop-motion animation and live-action telling of Alice in Wonderland in the rather remarkable Alice. And it came out ages ago on DVD. It is now out in a very, very nice Blu-ray release. And it is certainly not the traditional Alice in Wonderland, but it is Jan Svankmeyer's Alice in Wonderland, and it is really, really gorgeous. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film to look at on Blu-ray. A very, very nice job from First Run Features. Forget about anything with Tim Burton. Just forget it. This is really, really good stuff, especially considering, 1988, the elements coming out of the Czech Republic, probably not in great shape, but they've done a really, really nice job with it. It looks really good, and it's only 84 minutes long. Fantastic. Jan Svankmeyer's Alice, all completely remastered.
Wade, here's the surprise recommendation of the week.
Yeah.
A movie called Big Bad Wolves.
Ooh, that's the is that the thing that Tarantino went nutso for?
He certainly did, and there's a reason why he did, because it's crazy. There's a series of murders in this town, and the father of one of the victims wants revenge. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Revenge! No, it's very good, very suspenseful, very violent. It's got a lot of twists and turns to it, a lot of shocks and gross outs. I kind of liked it. This is really not the kind of film that I would like, but it had a certain amount of style to it and really owned its violence. It wasn't a torture porn thing, because I just really hate that torture porn thing. People are tortured, but I wouldn't consider it a torture porn film. But it's creepy, and it's got a lot of dark humor in it, and it's kind of a cool little movie. Big Bad Wolves. Tarantino, I don't know if he was paid to get that quote, but at least he didn't give it to a crappy movie. Seems like something he would like. So I would check out Big Bad Wolves if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Mobius is an interesting French film from Eric Rochon, great director, that happens to have Jean Dujardin in it, coming right off of his Academy Award win 2 years ago. Cécile de France, who's one of my favorite French actresses, and Tim Roth, of all people, who just doesn't show up in movies very much anymore, English or French, whatever it is. Anyway, this is an interesting espionage film. Doesn't quite work. It's a little bit on the lugubrious side, but it's very well done. Eric Rochon is an extremely skilled director. Has one of those really big cinematic grasp guys, and it's gorgeous looking on Blu-ray. Really good. Has an ultraviolet copy on it that's also really, really nice. Especially streaming. Watching this in streaming is pretty sharp. And it's got making of featurettes and interviews with Rochon, the actors, and I would recommend this at least for a rental. Definitely, definitely check that out. And then also Vincent Lindon, another one of those really rugged French actor guys. I love Vincent Lindon. He just looks like a guy who came off a construction site. And Chiara Mastroianni, who may have the greatest lineage of any actress in history. I mean, your dad is Marcello Mastroianni and your mom is Catherine Deneuve. How do you even live up to that?
I cannot believe she's 500 pounds.
Yeah,
Can you imagine being the daughter of those two and you're like ugly?
That would be terrible. That'd be terrible. Well, anyway, she's not. She's gorgeous. So Vincent Lindon and the wonderful Chiara Mastroianni in Bastards from the wonderful Claire Denis, who is just still one of the great French directors right now. This was in the Certain Regard section at Cannes. And it never really got its feet under it domestically because nobody releases movies here theatrically anymore. Sundance Selects picked it up for U.S. release, and of course, they're much more interested in VOD and straight to DVD and so forth. But this is quite a sharp film. It was inspired by an actual series of sex ring scandals in France. And it's very disturbing, but very realistic, very well done, and the performances are just great. Chiara Mastroianni is maybe the best thing that she's ever done. Vincent Lindon is always so subdued. It's a sharp film, definitely worth checking out. I'm just sorry that they didn't have more extras. I wish there had been a Claire Denis commentary, and it's not on Blu-ray, so that's unfortunate.
Oh, Wade.
Yeah.
One of my favorite foreign films of last year is out, A Touch of Sin.
Gosh, what a good movie that is.
It is a good movie. China's becoming a world power. And
Zhang Yimou's new film, finally he's back on track. His new film's in competition at Cannes.
Yes.
It's supposed to be great. It's supposed to be really good.
Very excited about that. China becoming a world power, as we know, and Chinese filmmakers are starting to kind of discuss filmically what it all means. And here we have these 4 separate stories. Each one kind of ends in violence. One is about this angry miner. The other is about this homeless kind of rootless migrant. The other is about this pretty young receptionist who's dating a married man, and another about a factory worker. And it's all representative of what China is becoming and their violent history, which sort of never goes away. This thing is very stylishly directed by a director whose name I will not pronounce because I will mess it up, and they will chase after me and possibly kill me.
Jean Jonker. There you go.
You made that up.
No, I like this much better than his last film, which we gave Best Foreign Language Film to a couple of years ago, which is the
thing with the train,
with the building taking off like a rocket. No,
right.
I hated all that crap. It was just way too. It's like all that magical realism. No, this is a really good film, it's a cool omnibus intersection thing of how all these lives and violence. The role that violence plays in modern China, and it's really disturbing, and it's all based in fact.
That's
right. The amazing thing. It's like you're like, that really happened? Somebody really did that?
Yep.
Like that. Wow, that's disturbing. You guys are as screwed up as we are.
Good stuff.
There's a really interesting Iranian film that I've wanted to plug here for quite a while. This has been out for a while. Women Without Men is really, really interesting. This is by a filmmaker named Shirin Nishat. And it's gotten some festival exposure, but it hasn't gotten enough, and people should really pay attention. It's a really interesting film, much more in the traditional Iranian kind of poetic realism style. And it takes place in 1953, which is really very interesting because most people don't realize there was, Iran was a democracy in 1953 until the guy who was Mossadegh, who was going to be elected president, was a little bit too chummy with the Soviet Union at that time. Well, it's in their backyard. It sort of made sense he wouldn't necessarily want to alienate the great big giant nuclear power that could invade them at any given moment. You know what I mean? So the geopolitics of it were a little scary to the U.S., and the CIA orchestrated a coup, overthrew him, and installed the Shah, who was essentially a monarch. So the United States overthrew a democratically elected government to install a monarch who would be more favorable to them than the democracy would be to the neighboring Soviet Union. Anyway, flash forward, that's basically what precipitated the revolution in 1979, and then all the crap that we deal with right now. That's the history. So, flashback to 1953, this is about 4 women and how their lives intersect in very interesting ways on the suburbs of Tehran, and it's a really, really beautifully made film, very interesting. A little bit of magical realism, which I normally don't like, but it's done in that poetic realism way in Iranian cinema where feels a little bit more acceptable to me. So it's a really, really good film, definitely worth checking out. Beautifully, beautifully made, beautifully shot. And then got 3 films from the Raro video line here, all of them on Blu-ray. These are all basically Italian films, kind of genre-y films that are, to varying degrees, might be worth checking out. Franco Prosperi is an action director who made Meet Him and Die. Italian films of this type from the 70s are all pretty kind of standard. Elke Summer shows up in this, and it's just a really violent Italian cop film. They're kind of a dime a dozen. I don't know that that's really that highly recommended. Hallucination Strip from Lucio Marcaccini is also new to Blu-ray, and this is another mid-1970s really dated film that has a whole kind of psychedelic 60s throwback vibe to it. A little bit too dated politically and stylistically. Not sure that really, really worked for me, but I did find interesting that Bud Cort pops up in this. Bud Cort pops up in the weirdest movies, dude.
Like Clint Howard.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like a very ugly man will be in your film.
Very weird.
And it's Clint Howard.
Francesco Rossi is a real director, and this is the film Many Wars Ago, otherwise known as Uomini Contro. And Rossi is a great director, one of the great Italian directors of the last 50 years. And this is from 1970, and it takes place during World War I in northern Italy, and it is really, really well done. It is gritty, it is grueling, it is beautifully photographed, it is a fantastic-looking Blu-ray. And this is the one you really want to see. This is a great anti-war film. Really, really great scale and art direction and everything else. Definitely want to check this out. Fantastic special features on this one. Information on the restoration, and it's really, really good. So that's worth checking out by Francesco Rossi. Uomini Contro, otherwise known as Many Wars Ago. And Mark, I want to talk for just a moment about Space Battleship Yamato. You a fan of Space Battleship Yamato?
I am not.
Star Blazers. You ever watch Star Blazers as a kid?
I did not.
You didn't watch Star Blazers?
I did not.
We were baptized in the same nerd swamp.
I was never into the Japanese stuff. It seemed just
Really?
too creepy and weird for me.
You didn't watch Speed Racer?
I did watch Speed Racer because they had no lips and there was a monkey, and the monkey always wound up in the trunk with the Trixie.
Okay,
how'd they wind up in the trunk? Didn't they suffocate?
Well, Star Blazers, you know what Star Blazers was, right? There were like 4 different seasons of Star Blazers, 4 different. It basically the idea is that the Yamato, which was the giant dreadnought of the Japanese Navy that was sunk during World War II, it's resurrected in the future and turned into a giant spaceship, and it has to go on a mission to defeat these alien races that are going to blow up the Earth.
Because basically, if Japan cannot win the war in real life, they will win
Exactly.
in anime.
Hey, I'll tell you, pretty great stuff. They for a long time, Hollywood was talking about doing a live-action version of it and could never get their act together. So finally, the Japanese said, "We'll do it," and they made a great big hunkin' live-action version of Space Battleship Yamato, and it's not that good. I'm sorry to say, it just feels wrong. I just watched this and I just felt like I want to watch the anime version. But they spent a lot of money on it, and there are a lot of behind the scenes things, and it's a Blu-ray DVD combo pack and looks spectacularly good. It's probably worth watching if you're a fan of the original Star Blazers and the movies that they edited from it, which are all the Space Battleship Yamato movies. But I don't know. Sometimes the effects didn't even look that good to me, and I was kind of shocked about that. So, anyway, there is that. And then, as long as we're on the martial arts vibe, Seven Warriors Stand and Fight is an interesting Hong Kong film that's a little bit like Seven Samurai. There have been a lot of films that are Seven Samurai variations. Obviously, the Battle Beyond the Stars, the Roger Corman science fiction film with Sybil Danning and
An early James Horner score.
And John Boy, which had James Horner writing the music and had special effects by
James Cameron.
And then of course the Magnificent Seven is the most famous one of all. But this is a Hong Kong take on it. That's it's fine. It's okay. It's a little bit odd because it just feels so familiar and derivative. I'm not quite sure why they did it, but I kind of understand why they did it, because they wanted to throw a bunch of noteworthy faces together, and they felt, well, we can put Max Mock and Jackie Chung and Wu Ma and Tony Leung and Lo Lie and these familiar faces together in a movie, and people will go see it. But they won't go see it outside of Hong Kong. So if you're a Hong Kong buff, you will probably like this. It's directed by Sammo Hung, who has a small part in it. But other than that, I don't know that it's really all that novel. So anyway, Mark, speaking of martial arts,
yeah, 47 Ronin was
so sad.
Was a tough birth for Mr. Woe himself, Keanu Reeves. This thing was supposed to be released in 2012, and then it got moved back to 2013, and it wound up coming out at the end of 2013, and now it's on Blu-ray, 3D, Blu-ray regular, DVD, and digital HD, none of which I recommend you see. This has very little to do with the legend of the 47 Ronin. This is kind of like a reimagining of it. It was, put it this way, the script was an original by the two guys who wrote Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. So
Oy.
They have a lot of respect for the Japanese culture and what it all means. Directed by a first-timer, starring a guy with no acting range to speak of. The movie totally just fails to impress on any level. It's dull. It's the roles are one-dimensional. It's just not good. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just it's a type of movie that makes a great trailer, but in the end does not make a great movie. Yeah. And you can see why. I mean, look, they tried to blame its delay on reshoots and completing the 3D effects. That took longer than they thought. But actually what they were doing is they were trying to, make the best out of a bad situation, because the movie's just not very good. So I would pass on 47 Ronin. It's just tedious, and it's really long, and it's slow, and it's just a deadly serious, lifeless, bad movie.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, it was good.
All right. Well, real quickly, just to wrap up the martial arts thing and to wrap up the show, 47 Ronin has been done in masterpieces by other directors already. I don't know what they thought they were doing. I mean, it's a great story. It's been done so many great times. There are at least 3 or 4 other versions that are really, really good. Jackie Chan's Chinese Zodiac. Jackie's back to doing big blockbustery films for Chinese New Year in Hong Kong. And Chinese Zodiac was a bit of a big deal fairly recently because it is essentially the Armor of God 3. He plays Asian Hawk again. The problem is Jackie's pushing 60 now, and Asian Hawk at 60 ain't the same as Asian Hawk at like 35. So this is... it's a little, he's slowed down, and it just feels a little bit like it's trying to be something that it can't really be anymore. It's trying a little too hard. That said, it's still enjoyable. It's just not vintage Jackie Chan. It's not what it needs to be. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. That's on Blu-ray and Ultraviolet from the good people at Universal. And then Young Detective D: Rise of the Sea Dragon is a noteworthy for being a one of the the less clumsy recent Choi Huk films. It's the sequel to Detective D: Mystery of the Phantom Flame, which was a huge hit, but nobody saw it here. So this is strictly for people who saw the first film and who are into the Detective D thing, which is a whole kind of it's a period detective concept that's a little bit fantasy, and this has a sea monster plot to it, and it's a little bit like, I guess, if I don't know, if Sherlock Holmes, if you cross Sherlock Holmes with like the Clash of the Titans and set it in period China or something, it's that's sort of what it winds up being. Anyway, so Young Detective D: Rise of the Sea Dragon for people who saw the first film and are big fans of it. And then we got a couple of Jet Li movies, one of which I thought was really cool, the other of which I thought was really tedious. Sorcerer and the White Snake is kind of classic Jet Li sword and wire work and wuxia stuff. Not as good as what he did in the 90s, but it's certainly fun. Really good choreography by Ching Soo-tung, otherwise known as Tony Ching Soo-tung, who did the action directing and choreography on some of Zhang Yimou's more recent films like Flying Daggers and a few other ones. One of the great wire work guys of all time, and does some nice work here. I don't like the visual effects so much. I'm a little tired of seeing CGI and everything, especially in Hong Kong movies where they didn't used to rely on it so much. But otherwise, thoroughly enjoyable. And then Badges of Fury is just a strangely familiar and tedious movie with Jet Li as the crusty old cop, who's got the young punky rookie for a partner, and we've seen that done so many times. It's like the Lethal Weapon films, except not as interesting. And it didn't really work for me in any way at all. And then a couple of quick ones finally. Ronnie Yu, another big Hong Kong director, familiar to many for directing Bride with White Hair, and then also the what was the American thing that he did? It wasn't
Star Wars?
No. The kangaroos, the freaking kangaroos that are sort of like a rip-off of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Warriors of Virtue.
Oh my God!
You didn't see that, did you?
I did not.
Oh, you missed out. It was just psychotic. Financed, by the way, by four brothers who are all dentists somewhere in Texas or Florida or something. Very strange history to that movie. Anyway, Ronnie Yu back in Hong Kong with Saving General Yang. Very nicely done, but it's one of those Chinese period films that is just so rooted in convoluted history that it'll make no sense to anybody who isn't just completely immersed in the genre. But otherwise, very nicely done. That is also a Blu-ray disc from Wellgo. And then finally, for fans of the ageless Andy Lau, who just does not go away, who does not age, who has not aged a single solitary day in the past 30 years, it is very disturbing. I don't know what his secret is, but this is a DVD Blu-ray combo set of Switch. And it's basically Andy Lau just doing his very best kind of Mission Impossible / James Bond impression. Just being cool, being awesome, being a special agent. And that's it. That's what he does. He just looks good. Last time I was in Hong Kong, I saw Andy Lau on television doing one of his concerts because he's also a pop star. That's obligatory in Hong Kong, right? If you're a movie star, you have to be a pop star. It was the most gaudy thing I've ever seen, and everybody loved it. They ate it all up. So anyway, this is fine. It's perfectly fine, perfectly passable. It doesn't really transcend the genre, but it's better. It certainly measures up well with some of the Mission Impossible films. So I'll say that. Andy Lau and the Blu-ray DVD combo pack of Switch. So there we go, Mark. That's the show for the week.
What?
We're done.
We're done?
We're done. We are done. So with that, we're done, and we'll be back next week with more
We need
fun.
Vox boxes. We need letters. Send us an email. Tell us something.
Vox boxes, and we got to get some more. We got to get some more giveaways going. We're going to get some more interviews going, And we do have some interesting interviews actually lined up. So we got some really, really good stuff lined up. We just have to get off our butts and knock it out. So with that, we are done. And send us the Vox boxes. Send us listener mail at gods@digigods.com. No, stop. And also visit the Facebook page. Join the Facebook group. We love the activity there. Lots of good people. See you guys next week.